The crystalline walls of Outpost Sigma 7 hummed with the gentle pulse of quantum engines as Dr. Maya Rodriguez adjusted her microscope. The research station, suspended in the void between Earth and Nexary space, represented humanity's first permanent scientific collaboration with an alien species. After 6 months of careful diplomacy, the Nexary had finally agreed to a joint biological research initiative. Maya lifted her eyes from the microscope as the laboratory door whispered open. Kethare entered, moving with the characteristic fluid grace of the Nexary. Their iridescent skin shifted through shades of deep blue and violet, while composite eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies within them fixed upon Maya with unwavering focus. Dr. Rodriguez, Kethare's voice resonated with the musical undertones typical of their species. I have completed my preliminary analysis of human cellular structure. There are irregularities that require discussion. Maya smiled, though she knew the gesture would be lost on her alien colleague. The Nexary were renowned across known space for their pure logic and emotional control, achieved through centuries of genetic engineering and cultural conditioning. They viewed biological processes through the lens of pure efficiency, and human biology was anything but efficient. What irregularities have you found? Maya asked, gesturing to the holographic display between them. Kethare's skin rippled with bands of purple, a sign of intellectual agitation. Your species maintains numerous biological systems that serve no clear purpose. The capacity for goosebumps, for instance. The retention of vestigial organs. The production of tears during emotional distress. But most perplexing. They paused, their secondary eyelids flickering rapidly. Your reproductive system appears deliberately inefficient. Maya couldn't suppress a laugh, which caused Kethare's skin to flash with patterns of surprise. I suppose from your perspective, it would seem that way. Nexary reproduce through controlled cellular division, right? Correct. We shed specialized reproductive cells which develop into genetically optimized offspring within carefully maintained growth chambers. The process is precise, controlled, and free from emotional entanglement. Kethare's head tilted slightly. Your species, however, engages in direct physical contact. You exchange genetic material through a process that appears both messy and unnecessarily complex. And you do this even when reproduction is not the goal. Maya felt her cheeks warm. She hadn't expected to be giving an alien being the talk today. Yes, well, human intimacy serves multiple purposes. It's not just about reproduction. It's about connection, pleasure, emotional bonding. Pleasure. Kethare interrupted, their skin now showing patterns Maya had never seen before. You derive satisfaction from this process? Of course. Most humans do. It's a fundamental part of how we connect with others, how we express love and attraction. Kethare was silent for a long moment, their composite eyes studying Maya with an intensity that made her slightly uncomfortable. This concept of love, I have encountered it in your species' literature, but I find it difficult to comprehend. You allow your biochemistry to influence your decision-making processes. You deliberately seek out states of emotional and physical vulnerability. That's one way of putting it, Maya said, trying to keep her tone professional despite the increasingly personal nature of the conversation. But it's more than just biochemistry. It's about forming deep connections with others, sharing experiences, growing together. Fascinating, Kethare murmured, their skin now showing complex patterns that seem to indicate deep thought. And these connections, they serve no practical purpose. Maya considered her words carefully. They serve many purposes, just not the kind that can be measured in a laboratory. They make us stronger as individuals and as a species. They give us reason to live, to create, to explore. To explore, Kethare repeated softly, and Maya could have sworn she saw something flicker in those cosmic eyes, something that looked remarkably like curiosity. Dr. Rodriguez, I believe I require more detailed information about these human biological processes. For scientific purposes, of course. Maya smiled, recognizing the familiar signs of scientific curiosity mixing with something deeper, something that perhaps even Kethare didn't fully understand yet. "Of course," she said. "Where would you like to begin?" As she pulled up the relevant biological data on the holographic display, Maya couldn't help but wonder if she was about to witness something unprecedented, a Nexari beginning to question their species' complete devotion to logic and efficiency. The thought both excited and terrified her. Little did she know, this conversation would mark the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything both species thought they knew about biology, emotion, and the true meaning of connection. The following weeks aboard Outpost Sigma-7 brought changes so subtle that at first, Maya almost missed them. Kethare began appearing in the laboratory earlier each day, leaving later each night. Their questions evolved from purely scientific inquiries about human biology to broader explorations of human behavior and culture. "These hormone fluctuations," Kethare said one evening, gesturing to a holographic display of human endocrine systems, "they occur naturally. Without conscious control." Maya nodded, watching as her colleague's skin shifted through shades of deep indigo, a color she'd begun to associate with intense concentration. "Most of the time, yes. We can influence them through behavior and environment, but they're largely autonomous." "And you allow this?" The genuine bewilderment in Kethare's voice made Maya smile. "You permit your internal chemistry to affect your cognitive processes?" "We don't just permit it," Maya explained, leaning back in her chair. "For most humans, these chemical processes are integral to who we are. They shape our experiences, our relationships, our understanding of the world." Kethare's secondary eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of processing new information. "But surely this creates inefficiencies? Unnecessary complications?" "Life isn't always about efficiency," Maya said softly. She reached for her coffee mug, noting how Kethare's eyes tracked the movement of her hands. Their fascination with human gestures had become increasingly apparent. "Sometimes the complications are what make it meaningful." The lab fell silent except for the gentle hum of equipment. Kethare's skin rippled with patterns Maya had never seen in any other Nexari, complex swirls of violet and azure that seemed to dance beneath their translucent outer layer. "Yesterday," Kethare began, their voice unusually hesitant, "I observed 2 human researchers in the hydroponics bay. They were laughing." The words seemed to catch in their throat. Their vital signs showed elevated heart rates, increased respiratory activity, and yet, they appeared to be experiencing pleasure. Maya set down her mug. "Laughter is one of our most important social behaviors. It releases endorphins, strengthens bonds between people, reduces stress. But it serves no practical purpose," Kethare interrupted. "It achieves no measurable goal. Doesn't it?" Maya challenged gently. "Those researchers, did they work more efficiently afterward? Did their cooperation improve?" Kethare's skin flickered with surprise. Yes. Their collaborative productivity increased by approximately 23.7% following the interaction. Maya smiled. "Sometimes what seems inefficient on the surface has deeper benefits we can't immediately measure." The Nexari scientist fell silent again, their composite eyes fixed on Maya's face with an intensity that might have been uncomfortable if she hadn't grown so used to their presence. When they spoke again, their voice carried a new quality, something almost like uncertainty. "Dr. Rodriguez." "Maya." It was the first time Kethare had used her given name. "I find myself experiencing irregularities in my thought patterns when studying human behavior." Maya's heart rate quickened. This was unprecedented. Nexari never admitted to emotional responses, their entire society was built around the suppression and control of such irregularities. "What kind of irregularities?" she asked carefully. Kethare's skin rippled with complex patterns. "I find myself wondering about experiences I cannot quantify. About sensations I cannot measure." They paused, their next words barely above a whisper. "About what it feels like to laugh. Maya felt her breath catch. This wasn't just scientific curiosity anymore. This was something far more profound, and potentially far more dangerous. Kethare, she said softly, are you asking me to help you understand human emotions? The Nexari scientist's skin flashed with patterns of distress. Such a request would be highly irregular. It would violate multiple protocols regarding interspecies cultural exchange. It could be considered a form of contamination. But? Maya prompted gently. Kethare's eyes met hers, and in their depths, she saw something she never expected to see in a Nexari, longing. But I find myself unable to suppress the desire to know. Maya glanced at the laboratory door, ensuring it was sealed. What she was about to do could probably get them both removed from the project, but something told her this moment was too important to let pass. Then let's start with something simple, she said, pulling up a new holographic display. Tell me, what do you know about human music? Kethare's skin rippled with surprise. Music? I failed to see the relevance. Music, Maya explained, activating the audio system, is one of humanity's most direct routes to emotional experience. No analysis, no logic, just pure feeling. As the first notes of a classical piece filled the lab, Maya watched in fascination as Kethare's skin began to respond to the rhythm, creating patterns she had never seen before. The Nexari scientist stood perfectly still, their composite eyes slightly unfocused, absorbing every vibration. Kethare's voice wavered. I am experiencing something. Maya smiled, recognizing the beginning of a journey that would change them both. That's exactly where we need to start. What neither of them noticed was the small indicator light blinking on the laboratory's monitoring system, a signal that their conversation had triggered automated reporting protocols. Somewhere in the depths of the station's communication array, a message was already being composed, destined for both Earth Command and the Nexari High Council. The lines between scientific research and cultural revolution were about to blur, and neither Maya nor Kethare was prepared for what would come next. The warning came 3 days after their music experiment. Maya was reviewing cellular degradation data when her personal terminal flashed with a priority message from Earth Command, notice of investigation, potential protocol violation. Her heart sank as she read through the automated report. Their late-night conversations, the music session, Kethare's unusual behavior patterns, all had been flagged by the station's monitoring systems. But what truly chilled her was the final line, Nexari High Council has been notified of potential cultural contamination. The laboratory door slid open, and Kethare entered. Maya immediately noticed something was wrong. Their usually iridescent skin was pale, almost translucent, with rapid pulses of dark colors racing beneath the surface. They're recalling me, Kethare announced without preamble, their musical voice distorted with what Maya now recognized as distress. The High Council considers me compromised. Maya stood so quickly her chair clattered backward. They can't do that. Our research is secondary to maintaining proper protocols. Kethare moved closer, their composite eyes swirling with colors Maya had never seen before. They believe I have been infected by human emotional patterns. And have you? Maya asked softly. Kethare's skin rippled with complex patterns. I find myself experiencing sensations that have no place in Nexari society. Yesterday, while analyzing human genetic sequences, I caught myself humming, creating musical vibrations without any scientific purpose. This morning, I observed the station's sunrise and felt something that cannot be quantified. They paused, their next words barely audible. I believe I felt beauty. Maya's throat tightened. In just a few weeks, this brilliant, logical being had begun experiencing emotions that their society had spent centuries engineering away. And now they were being punished for it. When do they want you to leave? The transport arrives in 6 hours. Kethare's skin darkened. They will likely subject me to neural recalibration upon return. All traces of these, experiences will be erased. No. The word escaped Maya before she could stop it. There has to be another way. Kethare tilted their head, studying her with those galaxy-filled eyes. You are experiencing emotional distress. Your cortisol levels are elevated, and your pupillary response indicates significant autonomic arousal. Of course I'm distressed. Maya ran a hand through her hair, pacing the laboratory. They're going to erase everything that makes you, you. Everything that makes me defective, you mean. Everything that makes you alive. Maya stopped pacing, turning to face her colleague. Kethare, these past weeks, I've watched you discover parts of yourself you never knew existed. You've begun to understand things about humanity, and yourself, that no Nexari has ever grasped before. That's not defective. That's revolutionary. Kethare's skin rippled with uncertainty. The Council believes. Forget what they believe, Maya interrupted. What do you believe? What do you feel? The laboratory fell silent except for the soft hum of equipment. Kethare stood perfectly still, their skin cycling through a kaleidoscope of colors. When they finally spoke, their voice carried a new quality, something almost human in its vulnerability. I feel afraid, they admitted. Not of the neural recalibration, but of losing these new awareness states. Of losing. They hesitated, then continued, of losing our conversations. Our shared discoveries. The way music makes my cellular structure resonate in patterns I cannot explain. The strange sensation in my thoracic cavity when you smile. Their skin flushed with bands of deep purple. I believe humans would call it joy. Maya felt tears welling in her eyes, a biological response that had fascinated Kethare during their early discussions. Then don't go. That would be unprecedented. Everything about you is unprecedented. Maya stepped closer, noting how Kethare's skin brightened at her proximity. You're living proof that logic and emotion aren't opposites, they're complementary. Your people need to understand that. Kethare's secondary eyelids flickered rapidly. You are suggesting I defy the High Council? Abandon my duties? My species? I'm suggesting you fight for something new. Something better. Maya reached out, hesitating just inches from Kethare's luminescent skin. May I? After a moment's pause, Kethare nodded. Maya gently placed her hand against their arm, watching in fascination as patterns of light rippled out from the point of contact. Your touch. Kethare's voice wavered. It creates sensations I cannot categorize. Not everything needs to be categorized, Maya said softly. Sometimes it's enough just to feel. The moment was interrupted by a harsh beeping from the communication console. The transport was arriving early. They had less than 4 hours. I must make a decision, Kethare said, their skin pulsing with conflicting patterns. Maya withdrew her hand, straightening her shoulders. Whatever you choose, know that you've already changed everything. You've proven that even the most logical beings can discover new truths about themselves. Kethare moved to the laboratory's observation window, staring out at the vast starfield beyond. Their reflection showed a being caught between worlds, still Nexari in form, but transformed by something uniquely human. Perhaps, they said finally, it is time for both our species to evolve. The laboratory's security system chimed, warning of approaching Nexari officials. In the next few moments, decisions would be made that would affect not just their lives, but the future of human-Nexari relations. The question was no longer about biology or protocol, it was about the very nature of consciousness itself. And somewhere in the space between logic and emotion, between duty and desire, a new kind of understanding was about to be born. The Nexari delegation arrived with the efficiency their species was known for, 6 tall, luminescent figures flowing into the laboratory like living mercury. Their skin displayed uniform patterns of authority, a stark contrast to Kethare's chaotic emotional displays. Researcher Kethare, the lead delegate's voice resonated with harmonic undertones of command. You will return with us immediately for neural recalibration. Maya stood beside her colleague, watching as Kethare's skin rippled with colors she'd never seen before, not fear, not defiance, but something entirely new. Something powerful. Honored delegates, Kethare's voice was steady. I must decline. The delegation's collective skin flickered with shock. The lead delegate stepped forward, their composite eyes scanning Kethare with clinical precision. Your neural patterns show severe contamination. You are not thinking clearly. On the contrary, Kethare responded, I am thinking more clearly than ever before. They moved to the laboratory's main display, activating a series of holographic readouts. I have made discoveries that challenge everything we believe about consciousness and efficiency. Maya watched in amazement as Kethare began presenting data, not just about human biology, but about their own transformation. Brain scans showed increased neural plasticity, enhanced problem-solving capabilities, and most surprisingly, improved cellular regeneration. These emotional experiences you call contamination? Kethare's skin pulsed with passionate colors. They have enhanced my cognitive functions by 47%. My research efficiency has increased by 62%. And my capacity for innovative thinking. They paused, their skin glowing with intensity. It has exceeded all previous measurements. The delegation's unified patterns began to fragment, showing individual responses of confusion and interest. The lead delegate raised a hand, crystalline appendages catching the laboratory's light. This is unprecedented. Yes, Kethare agreed. As is this. They turned to Maya. Dr. Rodriguez, please share the comparative analysis. Maya stepped forward, bringing up new data streams. We've been monitoring Kethare's cellular activity throughout their emotional awakening. What we've found is remarkable. She gestured to the displays. The integration of emotional response hasn't weakened their logical capabilities, it's enhanced them. Their neural networks are forming new patterns, creating pathways that combine Nexary precision with human adaptability. The delegation moved closer to the displays, their scientific curiosity overriding their cultural conditioning. One of them spoke, their voice carrying undertones of wonder. These patterns, they suggest an evolutionary leap. More than that, Kethare said. They suggest we were wrong about emotion itself. Their skin rippled with complex patterns as they addressed their people. We engineered emotional capacity out of our species believing it would make us stronger, more efficient. But in doing so, we may have limited our own potential. The laboratory hummed with tension as the delegation processed this information. Maya could see their skin patterns shifting, showing signs of internal conflict. The lead delegate finally spoke, their voice carrying new harmonics. The High Council must be informed of these findings. They already are. A new voice came from the laboratory's communication array. The holographic projection that appeared showed a Nexary elder, their skin patterns indicating the highest level of authority. We have been monitoring this situation with great interest. Maya felt Kethare stiffen beside her. The High Council members' projection studied them both, their composite eyes swirling with unreadable colors. Researcher Kethare, the elder said, your violation of protocol has created an unprecedented situation. However, their skin shifted to show patterns Maya had never seen before. Your findings suggest possibilities we cannot ignore. The laboratory fell silent as the elder continued. For centuries, we have pursued perfection through the elimination of emotional response. We believed this was the path to ultimate efficiency. But perhaps. Their skin rippled with what might have been uncertainty. Perhaps we have been efficient at the cost of being complete. Maya felt hope rising in her chest as the elder turned their attention to her. Dr. Rodriguez, your species' emotional capacity has long been viewed as a weakness by our people. We are beginning to understand that this assessment may have been incorrect. The delegate team's skin patterns had completely broken from their uniform display, showing individual responses ranging from shock to fascination. The elder's projection grew brighter. Researcher Kethare, you will not be recalled for neural recalibration. Instead, you will continue your research under new parameters. This station will become a test site for controlled emotional integration studies. If your findings prove replicable, they will be, Kethare interrupted, their skin blazing with confidence. I am already detecting similar potential in others. They gestured to the delegation, whose skin patterns were becoming increasingly individualized. The elder's projection showed patterns of acceptance. Then perhaps it is time for the Nexary to evolve once again. Dr. Rodriguez, we request your continued participation in this project. Your insights into emotional integration will be valuable. Maya felt tears of relief forming, a human response that no longer needed to be hidden or explained. I would be honored. As the elder's projection faded and the delegation began to disperse, Maya turned to Kethare. Their skin was glowing with patterns she recognized now as joy, tempered with the precise edges of scientific purpose. You did it, she whispered. You changed everything. Kethare's composite eyes met hers, showing depths of understanding that bridged the gap between their species. No, they said softly, their skin rippling with warm colors. We did it. And we have only begun to discover what's possible. The laboratory's quantum engines hummed, a steady pulse that seemed to match the rhythm of two species learning to understand each other in entirely new ways. Beyond the observation windows, the stars watched as ancient barriers began to fall, and new possibilities emerged from the space between logic and emotion. 6 months after the High Council's decision, Outpost Sigma-7 had transformed. What began as a simple research station had evolved into the galaxy's first emotional integration center, where Nexary scientists came to explore the untapped potential of their own consciousness. Maya stood in the newly expanded observation dome, watching as a group of Nexary researchers experienced their first musical symphony. Their skin patterns created a living light show, each being responding uniquely to the flow of sound. Among them, Kethare moved with the quiet confidence of a pioneer, helping their people navigate this new terrain between logic and feeling. Fascinating, isn't it? Kethare said, approaching Maya. Their skin showed patterns she'd learned to read as contentment mixed with scientific excitement. Each one develops their emotional capacity differently. There is no standard response pattern. Maya smiled, remembering how that very lack of standardization would have horrified Kethare just months ago. That's the beauty of it. Emotions aren't meant to be uniform. Indeed. Kethare's skin rippled with thoughtful colors. We are discovering that the integration of emotional capacity enhances individual potential in unexpected ways. Observer Lithven's artistic abilities emerged after experiencing sadness for the first time. Researcher Mirka's mathematical insights increased exponentially after learning to feel wonder. They turned to watch as one of the Nexary researchers reached out to touch the observation window, their skin pulsing with awe at the starfield beyond. They are becoming more than we ever imagined possible. And what about you? Maya asked softly. How has your own integration progressed? Kethare's skin shifted through complex patterns that Maya had come to recognize as their equivalent of a smile. I find myself experiencing states of consciousness that defy our traditional classifications. Yesterday, while reviewing genetic sequences, I discovered myself creating poetry about DNA structures. Maya laughed. I'd love to hear it. Perhaps later, Kethare said, their skin showing hints of what might have been embarrassment. What interests me more is how these changes are affecting both our species. They gestured to another part of the station where human and Nexary scientists worked side by side, their differences becoming bridges rather than barriers. The humans were learning to appreciate the beauty of logical precision, while the Nexary were discovering the power of intuitive leaps and emotional intelligence. The High Council's latest report suggests that voluntary emotional integration programs will be implemented across all Nexary research facilities, Kethare continued. They believe, and I agree, that this represents the next step in our evolution. Not just yours, Maya added. Humans are evolving too. Working with your people has taught us the value of balancing emotion with logic, passion with precision. We're learning from each other. A soft chime echoed through the dome as the symphony reached its crescendo. The Nexary researchers' skin patterns exploded in synchronized brilliance, their usual restraint forgotten in a moment of pure, shared joy. Maya felt tears in her eyes, happy tears, proud tears. Kethare noticed, of course. They always did. Your lacrimal response indicates strong emotional engagement. Are you well? I'm perfect, Maya said, wiping her eyes. Just happy to be here, watching this happen. You know, when I first joined this project, I never imagined that a simple biological study would lead to an interspecies revolution. Kethare's skin sparkled with amusement, an emotion they had mastered with particular enthusiasm. That we'd change each other so much, Maya corrected. That we'd learn there's no single right way to experience consciousness. Kethare was quiet for a moment, their composite eyes reflecting the stars beyond the dome. I have been studying human philosophical concepts, they finally said. There is one that seems particularly relevant, the idea that the whole can be greater than the sum of its parts. Emergence, Maya nodded. The theory that complex systems can develop properties beyond those of their individual components. Yes. Kethare's skin rippled with excitement. What we are witnessing here is emergence on a species-wide scale. The integration of human emotional intelligence with Nexary logical precision is creating something entirely new. Something neither of our species could have achieved alone. As if to emphasize their point, a burst of laughter rang out from the research section. A Nexary scientist had just made their first joke, sending their human colleagues into fits of delighted giggles. The sound mingled with the last notes of the symphony, creating a harmony that bridged the gap between worlds. We still have much to learn, Kethare observed, their skin showing patterns of anticipation. Many new emotions to explore, many new ways of understanding the universe. Maya reached out, gently touching their arm, a gesture that no longer required explanation or analysis. And we'll discover them together. Kethare's skin glowed with warm colors as they turned their gaze back to the stars. Beyond the station's walls, the galaxy stretched endless and bright, full of possibilities neither species had yet imagined. In the space between logic and emotion, between thought and feeling, between human and Nexary, something new was being born, a future that honored both the head and the heart. And in that future, there was room for every kind of consciousness, every way of experiencing the universe's grand design. It wasn't about choosing between logic and emotion anymore. It was about finding the beauty in both, about understanding that the truest wisdom comes not from denying parts of ourselves, but from embracing them all. As the next symphony began to play and new Nexary researchers arrived to begin their journey of discovery, Maya and Kethare stood together in comfortable silence, witnesses to a revolution that had started with a simple question about human biology and ended by redefining what it meant to be conscious, to be alive, to be whole. The stars wheeled overhead, ancient and eternal, watching as two species learned to dance between reason and feeling, logic and passion, mind and heart. And in their light, all things seemed possible. The end.